All right. So again, one of the key things we want to go over today to help with everything is the biggest item is how to submit a permit through the next gen system. We'll also go over the difference between an event listing and submitting the permit so that you understand those differences and eliminate confusion for any organizer that's looking to permit. We'll also go over how to edit or make changes after submission is complete or made. And then other items will be how to utilize the communication tool with USA Cycling staff and other administrators, such as the local associations, if you're permitting a road, track, cyclocross, or even gravel and fun ride events. And also assigning and finding your chief referee for your event. We've incorporated this functionality so that the chief referee will have access to the post-event report. And the last part of this, before we go into any extended Q&A session, will be how to complete your post-event submission online. So we'll be able to walk through submitting the post-event, and you'll see how that is handled in the next-gen system. And hopefully you will find this to be easier. I'll also, at that point, before we go into the post-event form, I'll let Chuck discuss and speak to some of the things that we're looking to accomplish in the future with the post-event form, and speak to that at that time. So for now, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to change over to this real quick. So you should see the front page of the USA Cycling website. So in the past, event organizers have only been able to access the ability to permit their event through their My Account page. Going forward with the next gen system, you'll be able to access this from a couple of areas. You'll still be able to access it through logging into your My Account page, and I'll show you that here in a minute. But anybody who's wanting to just go straight in and skip the My Account login on the front page, you'll click on Permitting with USA Cycling, and you'll see right away there's a Start a Permit button that will allow you to go straight to the login screen. So if you're not logged in, it'll ask you to log in or create an account, and then from there you'll be able to start an event permit. To access this through your My Account page, you'll click on My Account after you've signed in. And then you'll see over here on the left-hand side, we have several links that you'll have access to. And right here is the permitting and event management link. So I'm going to click on that so we go straight to the permitting system. So when you go in from this perspective, you'll see the events queue. This will only show you events that you have access to. So since we're using My Account, it's going to go directly to what I can see overall with all event permits. However, you'll see this Add New Event button. And instead, if you go through the front end of the first option that I showed you, that link, once you've logged in, will take you directly into the event listing and submitting that. But we're going to go ahead and click here on Add New Event. So as you can see, because I'm logged in, my information loaded right into the general info. If you as an organizer need to add additional contacts for your permit, just for communication purposes, we can add those here under the additional contacts. And that does not mean that they will be insured. So I want to be clear on that. And we'll talk about some insurance items here in a little bit and how that works within the permit process. But if you have somebody who's handling your volunteers or handling registration or other items, and you want to list them as an additional contact, this is the section to do that. This allows administrators to see who all is involved with the event, and allow us to communicate with them, or at least keep everyone connected in terms of communication. For those that are putting on racing events, as you know, we've required a sponsoring club or a USA Cycling race director license to permit the competitive events. That is still the case, and like you could in the past, you could search or be connected to clubs. With this, you can actually search for multiple clubs here, and you type that into this. So if I wanted to type in USA Cycling, boom, it's going to show me what shows up there. And if you accidentally, click on a club that may or may not be involved with the event, the club actually gets a notification to confirm that they are involved with the race or the ride that you are trying to permit. That way we can confirm and make sure that everything is good there from the insurance perspective. If you don't have a race director license or you don't have a club, then with this process, as you go through it and go all the way to submission, it will add the race director license to your card. So you don't have to purchase the race director license separately. And also, if you're permitting a non-competitive event, then we do not require the race director license or the sponsoring club. You're free to list the sponsoring club if you have one, but you'll be able to submit the permit. And unlike with the legacy platform, you won't see that added to your card at checkout. Now, as we go down, you'll see the event name. So we're going to put USA Cycling Road Race. We're going to do a road permit just so I can show you the competitive aspects and some of the questions that we have for the organizers. We do split out the questions, and we'll go over that a little bit later. But for the sake of this permit submission, we'll go ahead and submit a road event. So I'm going to select that the date is going to be August 15th. And then this is where you select your event discipline, which helps determine your permit fee, your insurance surcharge, and also helps us designate what questions you get asked later on in the permit process if you do permit your event. So for this, we're going to select road racing, but a couple of things I want to point out that's different with next gen system versus this is that you have, unlike in legacy, we have the Grand Fondo and gravel disciplines split out. And we also have camps, fun rides, clinics split out a little bit more. And once you click on those, you can actually go in and select the discipline that your camp or clinic's for. So if you're doing a mountain bike clinic, you would be able to select clinic, and then down below, I'll show you in the event card, you'd be able to select mountain bike. So it's very specific, and that will help with marketing your event on the event calendar. So for now, we're going to select road racing. Once you've triggered that, it asks you a couple of questions here. If you're running any of the following event types, a stage race, omnium, or series, you can click on any of these or none of these. This is not a required question to answer, but the stage race and omnium question, as well as the series question, will allow us to see some trends and how this ties together within what we're seeing for event permits. And so we'll be able to see how many stage races we have versus omniums. We'll also be able to see series. Many of you will permit a series under one permit, but there are other series out there that exist. For example, I'll take the USA Crit Series. They have multiple permits with different event organizers. So we want to see how many series are out there around the country. And then again, if your event's a part of a special calendar, you would click on one of these boxes. We will confirm this. So if you select that you're a UCI event and you're a Tuesday night crit series locally, we would pull that information. But You'll see also why we did it this way is when you put in a UCI event or a national calendar event, you pay your permit fees in the actual bid process. So we have codes that will eliminate the permit fee so that you don't encounter a permit fee at the checkout process. So again, collegiate and juniors are on here as well. We're going to be doing some updates to that in the future to get richer data for junior events or collegiate events that we can measure and share with organizers and groups around the country. So I'm going to uncheck these for now. So the description, this is where you can put in anything you want. So if you have, let's say, you see the example here, it says stage 1. You could just list that. I'm just going to type in road race here. And now I'm going to come through and select through my disciplines. You have a multi-select option. Since this was a road race, we'll select road race here. And then I'm also going to select the date. With this system, if you have multiple dates, you can actually select those through these event cards. And that is critical in this process. The event cards are what help dictate which dates are covered by insurance. So, for example, earlier you saw there's a date range up above. So the start date and end date, you'll have this available to see across all your event dates on the calendar. But in particular, with this event, there's only one, so this is the only option we get. If I expanded that, you would see that it's going to give us multiple event dates, and you'll have event cards that you'll add through this process. One nice feature of that is you have, let's say you have a weekend omnium, you're going to have different locations for different venues possibly. And so on the event calendar, riders will actually see each one of these dates and each one of these event cards as a calendar entry on the USA Cycling event calendar. So this will help with allowing riders to see what opportunities are available. That was one of the things we heard prior to developing this, is that whether it be a weeknight series or we have an omnium, riders weren't always sure what was offered with the old calendar. And with this, it's going to split out each date and show you, hey, if you're looking for just a time trial within the omnium, you can find that on your event calendar, and it will be specified. So click here on the date. For this, we'll just type in USA Cycling Point. So we've got that set up. Here, the registration link, I'm going to click on Bike Reg. So you will be able to enter your registration link. One key thing is, if you do enter this in, do not copy and paste the HTTPS feature, because what happens there is when you copy that over, it triggers multiple HTTPS language in the link, and the link won't work. So, for example, you would want to type in bikereg.com and whatever your specific URL code is after that, so that people go directly to your bike reg page there. Event website, we'll just type in usacycling.org. And for the event announcement, this is your event flyer. That's what everybody is used to, probably on this call, what we've always called it. We've gone with an announcement because just the language seemed to be more appropriate for what we're looking to get here. So with the announcement, it can either be a URL or it can be a file that you can upload. So if we wanted to upload a file here, so I can choose, and I'm going to go in here real quick, and we'll just say it's going to be this for that. So once that goes in, that's uploaded into the system. Again, you could easily use a URL. And then for event logo, here's another Another thing, in the future, you'll be able to do your own branding. You'll add your own event logo to the permit, and this will actually show up on the event calendar in the future in one of our additional iterations as we work to progress. So for here, I'm just going to put this logo, and that's that. I'm not going to include any social links right now, but if you have any of those, you can include this. Eventually, this will be something else we'll feature on the calendar so that people can connect with your event and other sources of ways to get information about your event. So now we're at the bottom of this page. And so you can either save and exit, and you can always come back at this point, or you can click on review listing. The review listing aspect is, and why we have this is you can go in and continue on with your, whether you want to permit the event or whether you want to submit the listing now and move forward. So with this, what we're trying to do is the listing page allows us to create a comprehensive calendar of events across the country. So we want to know who's doing what and where. And maybe those will permit with USA Cycling, maybe they won't, but they'll have the option to permit here. But at least we'll have a comprehensive calendar that people will come to look for events. And also, one goal with this is also to help organizers with avoiding, conflicting dates and having a better understanding of what it may be going on in a certain state or even a region of the country. So I'm going to click on review listing here. And then you get this page to review the listing. You'll see all the details. Looks like everything has been entered correctly at this point. So here's where the path in the road forks. We can either submit this as a calendar listing, and I could always come back in and permit the event later if I wanted to, and I can at least go ahead and get it on the calendar now, or I can permit my event with USA Cycling. So we're going to go ahead and click on the permit your event with USA Cycling, and that now takes us into the permit application. So what I want to do now is just kind of stop here and address some of the questions and make sure we're good on everything. So it looks like Sean, and looks like we've got some answers. So it looks like James asked a question about multiple logos, the event and the club logo. We don't have that at this point, James. That's a good question, and that may be something we can add in the future in an upcoming iteration of this. So we can look into that, and we'll try to add that as a feature to add. Jeff, your question about what calendar does juniors refer to, or does it simply mean there are junior fields at that event? It means that there are junior fields at that event. One thing we want to do in the future with this, Jeff, is to have a more comprehensive calendar of race opportunities for juniors. I think most people on this call, if you've been a race organizer or a ride organizer, you've seen that we have races and events with loaded days and lots of racing. So with that in mind, we want to be able to highlight those opportunities. Liz is putting together some nice things to highlight junior racing and riding opportunities in the country. And so our goal is to have the calendar or have this permit process help feed that. Sean Wilson had the question, will your calendar have the ability to automatically pull information from other sites? I would have to know, for example, we won't pull in information from at least into USA Cycling, or I think that's what you're referring to. But we will be able to, for example, if you do set up with somebody like Bike Reg, there is the API that's involved with your event permit. So when you set up the registration, and I'll highlight this once we get to the permit, you'll still enter in your permit ID, and that's your permit number that you use in Bike Reg. And then there's an API to connect you or connect USA Cycling with Bike Reg so that we can collect the waivers and be able to also, look at the membership database. And then Sean had another question on the training rides. Would these have an added insurance surcharge, or would we be covered under our yearly insurance? Sean, if you want to, you can send me a private message or an email on that so I can go into that a little more. I'm not quite sure on the question there, because if you permit the training ride, it would have the standard insurance surcharge that we would have for a training ride. But if you have the club insurance policy, and you're not charging an entry fee for the training rides, and you don't need additional insurance coverage, then you should be covered under that club policy. So message me on that, and I can address that for you. All right, I think we're up to date on the questions here. So we'll jump into the permit application. So a couple of things that we want to do with this. The event information section of this, we wanted to gather some detailed information from you and to track a few things. For one, the timing and results company. We'd like to be able to track this in the future and see who's doing what, and also be able to look at who service providers are around the country. We know a lot of these, but there are a lot of smaller, timing and results companies around that we may not know about. Also, you may be looking for resources or information on who you could use for this, and we'll be able to collect that information and point you in the direction of certain providers or providers that are available within your region in the future. So this, I'm just going to type in USA Cycling. Who will handle registration, collection of signed waivers, and license verification? So for this, I'm going to answer this in multiple ways. One, because I signed up with Bike Reg, that's who I'm doing my online registration with. I'm going to type in Bike Reg for online registration and waivers. And then I'm going to put Chuck. Chuck's going to be my registrar for this event. I know that's a job he's looking forward to. So Chuck Hodge will collect waivers for on-site and verify licenses. So this way we can confirm you have a plan in place for validating that you are collecting the waivers, and also that licenses are being verified at the event. Another key question that we've seen come up in recent years is, does your event have equal payout for men and women? For this event, we're going to say yes. And that just helps us track what the trends are around the country. And a couple of things we'll be able to do with that in the future is be able to pull information and see that maybe races with equal payout are achieving higher attendance than races that may not, or vice versa. So we'll be able to look into that information in the future. So the maximum payout, we're going to make this $1,500. And also you'll note here that it says, please list GC payout or series payout if your event is a stage race or a series. So we just want to be able to keep track of this and also look at those trends. As many of you know, we went away from the historical way of collecting permit fees. And for the remainder of the year, we're not collecting permit fees at all. But earlier in the year, we went to a flat rate for permits. And with that in mind, we still want to be able to track the prize list and see how large it is. because that could have a bearing on the officials assignment and who we'd want to assign. You know, if you have a $10,000 prize purse that's equal payout for men and women, you wouldn't want to assign a Category C official to be chief referee for that event specifically. Here, your communications. So we're going to select two-way radio and cell phone for this. And so again, if you wanted to stop at any point in time on this page, you could click Save and Exit, but we're going to continue. And this feature is something that we've not had in Legacy in the past, but the ability for you as an organizer to upload your course map so that the chief referee can actually access this. They will be able to share that with the crew. It'll also make looking into course issues much easier. So you'll have a file that you can follow and look at everything. You know, for this, you know, everybody's got a preference on these. It doesn't matter. You can use a URL. I have a preference with Rod with GPS. You may have something else. This system allows you to work with multiple options. And so I'm going to select the discipline as a road race. And I'm going to click on enter the URL. So at this point, once I've entered that, that information is in there. Have you secured all local permits and approvals to hold this event? The reason why we asked this one in particular is this is a requirement for your insurance to be valid, is that you have to have your local approvals and permission to do the event in your area. And so this, if you answer no to this question, and this could be that something you don't have it yet, and that's okay. But if you click no, we're going to come back and ask you. We will not approve the permit until that question is answered. But for this, I'm going to click yes. And then we also ask you what type of course markings and equipment are being used. So we have the various options here. We have structured these to be different for different types of events. For example, a Grand Fondo would have completely different course marking and equipment options for you to select. Track will have completely different equipment and course marking options for the organizer to select. So for this, we're going to have directional signage, road markings, and we'll have some barricades out. At this point, we're ready to save and continue. And so I'm going to go in real quick. We'll pause here for just a second. And looks like everybody, looks like our questions are up to date. So thank you, Chuck. And Sean, just so you know, I'll show you here in a little bit. When we do the permit review, I'll show you that this information is saved, and you'll be able to go in and see that and be able to click on the link and go somewhere with it. All right, so this section is really important because we've had a few issues with events that have submitted permits so far. So one thing, and this is something that we are working to address, is that the organizer is listed here. I am a named insured as the organizer of this event. Any club would be listed as a named insured for this event. And so one thing you don't want to do is eliminate your name as a named insured for this event. Now we gave you the option to edit certain things because your name, you may want to feature a slightly different name to be listed on the insurance certificate. But at no point in time do you want to delete this. Once you've deleted it, I can't go back in and add it. And so it makes it a little bit more complicated for me or for the team to go through and update that to make sure you're not charged anything as a named insured. You also have to enter your street address. The reason why we did this is because some groups and professional event organizers may want to list their professional address instead of their personal address for this. So we allowed you to add or edit this, and that's why we've done this. In the future, we'd like for this to just pre-populate, and if you want to change it, that is something you could do. But that's not there yet. And down below, this is very important, and it'll save you time, and it will save staff time as well. If you don't have a special endorsement requirement from your local city or municipality that requires specific verbiage to be added to your insurance certificate, then you do not need to select any of these endorsements. One thing I will work with our IT team on, because this has come up quite frequently lately as we've seen more events. Permitting, as you know, certain areas of the country are at phases where they can do more events. We see a lot of people selecting some of these, and these are very specific items that require specific verbiage from that entity. So if you don't need it, don't select it, because once you've selected it, and it's fine if you select it, we can eliminate it, but it will charge you $75 for that endorsement. That's a charge that the carrier requires, and it's a pass-through cost. So we collect it and pass it through. For this, I'm done, so I'm going to hit save. If you need to add any entities as additional insured, you can do that here. But I'm not going to for the purposes of this demonstration, but you can always add that, and you can always do this at any point in time all the way up until the day before or at least the Friday before your event. So if you had any needs there, you can always do that, and I'll show you how here in just a minute. So we're going to click save and continue on this. And now we have optional add-ons. So these are some of the items and features that you may need for your event that are additional insurance products. So if you have a road race and you need to add your autos or motos to this, you'll be able to do that from this page. If you have a kids race, like a fun little race for kids under the age of 9, then you can add the kids race permit here. And once you've selected that, that's all you pay for the insurance for that. You don't pay any additional insurance surcharge or anything after the event. If you have practice days or setup and teardown days, you can add that. And then also if you have the umbrella insurance need, you can add that. And I'll show you once you've added, you change the number of participants, it matches up with you know what we charge for the umbrella insurance. So for this presentation, we don't need this. We don't need the ancillary insurance either. That would cover, you know, items outside the scope of the bike race, such as a fun zone for kids or, you know, a festival that you've got in conjunction with your event. So I'm going to click on continue. And now we get to the permit contract that you'll sign. And you have to scroll all the way down through this. As you can see, all of this is grayed out below. So if you don't scroll all the way through, then you cannot get to the bottom to complete this, to fill it out. Type in my name and agree to this. The system triggers an automatic download for your copies. If you don't want this, you just hit cancel, but you could download this agreement if you need to. And you can always go back in and download it later. So for the sake of this, I'm going to hit cancel, and I'm going to complete my order. Now we go into our payment processor, and here I'm going to submit everything. As you can see over on the right-hand side of the screen, there's no fees because we're not charging the permit fee for any event, and I'm automatically listed as a named insured at no additional charge. So go through. Now I'm going to continue to payment. Oh, see, I didn't enter everything in because it didn't auto-populate. So triggered an error message. And now your order is free, no payment is required. And so you click pay now. Once this goes through, then you get this information here thanking you for submitting your request. And if you need to go back and you want to go back and see what you were working with, then you click on the events management link right here. So I'm going to click on that, and now I can go in and see right down here my event and that it's in permit review. So now I'm going to click and show you what the event queue looks like. For example, we have our overview. So you can always come back in here and see notifications. I've completed my payment, so I have no outstanding payment. If there are any comments or items that are being discussed between either USA Cycling and the organizer, or the local association with the organizer and staff, then you'd be able to enter these comments in here. What happens is once you've entered the comment here, it triggers an email notification to go out, and we can at least keep track of all the comments and all the information going back and forth on the event by utilizing this tool for communication. Again, if we have any payments, any orders, if you need to download a receipt for anything, you can click on payments and you'll be able to view that and download it. Documents, this is where you can come in and view your permit contract. So this PDF agreement, that is your permit contract. And if you have other items, here in a little bit, I'll show you once we put this into permit approved, there will be additional information that is submitted. And then also you'll be able to see the history of everything that took place. Now, if you ever have to make adjustments to an event, you can always go back in and edit through your pre-event tab here. So for example, you may have an updated race announcement that needs to get posted with sponsors and other items. You can always edit this through this by clicking on the edit button, and then you can go back in and edit your announcement, upload a new file, do whatever you need to do. And this would allow you to make that change. And then what happens is there will be a trigger that goes in that puts the permit back into review. So what we try to do is confirm this. And if you make a comment to us that's visible by all, then that helps us understand what the change was that you made in the system. You can also, again, I showed you earlier that if I answered no to that, have you secured all local permits and approvals to hold this event, we'll be able to see this. And if we need to go in and modify that or edit that to yes, you'll be able to do that as well. And that will trigger a review again. You can see your insured persons for the event, and this is where you would go to add on any additional certificates. You also see your permit add-ons. So if you added anything on here or you need to purchase any, you can do that. For specifically for officials and officials assigners for local associations, once we get the issues resolved with the zip codes for the LA, for the LAs to be connected to the event permits correctly in all areas, then we'll have the notifications generated, and you'll know that this permit's been submitted. You'll be able to go and review it, and if you want to, once you've got your chief referee set up, this gives them access not only to the permit and the communication with the organizer prior to the event, but it also gives them access to the post-event form so that we can go in and so they'll be able to submit that once the event's complete. You can type by name or license number, and I forgot that Chuck doesn't go by Chuck in his license. So we'll click on this, and you'll see that Chuck shows up, and I can assign him as the chief referee for this event. If we, for whatever reason, if we ever need to change this, you can always do this. One nice feature of this system, if this was a series event, so if you have a weeknight series that you do, and you have multiple chief referees, all of these chief referees can be assigned by the event date. and that gives them specific access to enter and submit the post-event information for just that event date. So that's a feature that you would see for this that you'll be able to utilize. So before I go into post-event and turn this over to Chuck, then I just want to make sure we're good. Good on the questions. Looks like Chuck has addressed most of these. So I think we're okay for now. So Chuck, what I'm going to do is I'm going to unmute you, and then you can go over what we're trying to accomplish here with our events and the post-event form in the future.
Great, thanks, Stuart, and thanks for everybody for jumping on here. See a lot of familiar names, which is great. Just while Stuart's catching a breath here, and we figured this is a good time for him to go through answers, I just want to give you a little 30,000-foot view of why we're going into the new permitting system. Number one, our system, as those of you who used it know, was built on extremely old technology. Built on our legacy system, it was obviously crumbling, and we just needed to go in and do some updated. I think those of you who've used any kind of data entry online will see some of the just changes we've made that are current. Things like you start entering an address and it automatically looks in the Google database and finds a matching street name, allows you to enter that. My direction to the IT staff, it was that we really want you, not necessarily the first time, but after you've used this once or twice, to be able to go through and knock out a permit in a very reasonable amount of time, 15 minutes or less if you have your stuff together. And I think that is very doable once you all go sort of get used to this system to do. The system also allows a lot more flexibility. It's built again on current computer architecture. So some of the things that have been just brought up on this call, I think Sean brought up, why don't you just put bikereg.com and let us enter the custom URL. That's something that we can easily go in and do now, as opposed to spending days and having stuff hard-coded in an old system. It also allows us really good flexibility when we go to change any kind of pricing. I think everybody noted here that when Stuart checked out, because we created a new policy to go to a zero permit fee starting in June, and we also changed the insurance surcharges and post-event, that would have been a week of work before, and now it's going into Shopify, which is who we use on our back end, and changing some numbers. So for us, and I'm hopefully for you on the front end, it's going to be a lot cleaner and more easy to use. One big part of this, which I've tried to bring up in chat, is that we built this in many ways to enable a better calendar. The frustration of being a junior and not being able to go in and search junior events. Now you can do that. And I sent the link out to our event calendar. Just realized that we still have some legacy data in there, so it's not perfect yet, but we're going to roll into the changes. Same thing with collegiate. The ability now to go in and search just for collegiate events or events that have collegiate races in them, we felt like is something we definitely want to move towards. So some of the stuff you enter in here, although it doesn't seem quite logical when you're entering it, I just want you to realize that on the other end for your customer and our customer, it should provide some better service. And as Stuart said, this is really important for us to go in and enter or gather this data from what you're entering. So the ability for us to look at, right now we can't tell you how many road race days versus how many criterium days, or how many gravel days versus Grand Fondo days. So it's going to enable us, and we'll be passing this info on as we gather it over the next year, to make better estimations of what's going on out there in the world. And we'll share this with the LAs and others as we go in. The other portion of this, and I'll say this as an official, I'm glad to see we have a few of our officials on here. We'll go into the post event. some of the questions we're asking are very pertinent for the chief official to be able to go in before a race. So they're not bugging you as the race director about who your provider is for this or that service. They're going to be able to go in and take a look at what some of these factors are. Beyond that, Stuart alluded to this a little, but we are looking at various ways to reward events that do certain things. Ostensibly, if your event's safer and you're doing certain things, you maybe should be entitled to pay less on the insurance. If you're taking certain actions, which is an organization and is an association we feel like we want to reward, we have the ability to ask those questions here, and then possibly in the future vary pricing on the insurance or permit fees or whatever else is out there. So those are some things we're going to have the ability to do in the future that we're currently looking at, and one reason we're answering those questions. So I hope that is a good broad overview. I realize that this is not perfect. We're pretty comfortable with where we sit now, but feedback, productive feedback from everybody who uses this is important to us. And we are dedicated to making this system even better as we move forward. I think it's already nice, and we want to, over the next year, get this to be a really nice, refined system that's easy for you to use and easy for us to use. So I hope that answers questions you all have, and I'm going to take back over on chat. Stuart's definitely the bigger expert than me on this, but I'll answer where I can and leave the others to him. So, and feel free to ping me directly on message or to the whole group, and I'll try to get your questions answered. Thanks, Stuart.
Thanks, Chuck. All right, so so what I'm going to do, so we can show you the post-event form and take care of that. So I'm going to go ahead and click this to go into post-event. Just so everybody understands, once the event is past the first, or once it hits actual race day, moving forward, the event permit will automatically go into post-event at that point. Even if it's you know, a weeknight series, it doesn't mean you can't go back in and edit items. If you're a race director, let's say we have a rain out and we need to modify dates, resubmit things, we'll be able to make those changes. But the reason why we want it to go into the post-event status is you as the, for this presentation, if you're putting on a competitive event, the chief referee will be able to go in and submit the post-event information after that date. And then the organizer can make the payment for that one date, and we can collect information quicker on what's happening. And that helps us with numbers. It definitely helps us see the trends that are taking place and happening with events around the country when we get that information in quicker. So I'm going to click in post-event. And so now that we're in that, I'm going to click here and give it a second. I may have to hit refresh. All right. So now you'll see this is the post-event form. And you click on the pencil and pad here to go in and start to edit this. So I'm just going to go through a lot of these questions were already on the post-event, the previous post-event form. I'm going to click yes to these. If you have comments about any of this, you know, as far as any of the items that you noticed as chief referee with registration, you can enter those in. Same with event conduct and technical support for the event. I'm going to select no there, podium. This question has had a few, triggered a few questions from chief referees so far that have used this. Was this event part of a BRP? And they didn't know what BRP stood for. So BRP is the Beginner Racer Program. And that's one of the things Chuck had, you know, was kind of alluding to, that in the future, you know, this may be something that, you know, helps us with evaluating the event and looking at everything that they've done to you know, help and grow the sport of cycling here. So for this, we'll click yes, and we'll continue down. The race technical support, I did not have any of this, but I will click yes. I did use a timing company because I did put that in as one of the items that I submitted when I entered in the permit. And the first aid medical support question. In here, you would type in what type of medical facilities or services you had. So you could type in here that we've got advanced life support and medical tent located at the start/finish area. If you want to get really detailed with this, you can. That just helps us understand the medical facilities and what all you saw as chief referee on site. Right here, we've got the number of accidents or occurrences. So when I click on one, it automatically gives you the ability to upload the accident and occurrence report. One of the nice features with having online waivers going through Bike Reg is that you can upload your occurrence report, and if the rider had pre-registered through Bike Reg, we already have that waiver stored in our system. So we'll be able to utilize that, and we just need the occurrence report. So right here, I'm just going to upload. Well, there we go. So it only supports PDF or Word docs. So we'll leave it blank for now, but we have received these, and it's actually nice to have this in the system, and that way we can send that off directly. This is functionality we had in Legacy as well, but it's a little bit easier to access these documents here and submit those to the insurance company. Rider discipline, we're going to select no. The largest prize list for the event, 1,500, and we'll click yes here. Just go through and click yes for all these. So I'm going to click save and continue. And now we move on to the last part of the post-event process, which is reporting the numbers. One item that we've added here is to look at pre-registered versus on-site registrations. We know that not all chief referees are going to have that information at their disposal. And so if you don't, it can skew the numbers a little bit, but that is not where we determine the total number of riders for the insurance surcharge. We do that below here where the rider fees are. But for this, I did pre-reg only, so I'm going to put 200 riders. It's going to tell me what my total registrations were, and your registrations could be completely different than your rider fees or your rider total, obviously, because we have a lot of no-shows for events. In the new system, in the past, we've asked for duplicate riders versus unique riders. What we try to do here is just have you calculate the total number of unique riders for a given day. And if it's multiple events, you may have a road race and a time trial on a Saturday. You may not have anybody reported under the time trial because everybody is showing up and did the road race earlier in the day. So you would report 0 for the unique riders in the time trial if they already raced once that day. For this, we're going to put 180 though, because we're going to have 20 no-shows. And then as you enter that information, it calculates the post-event total, and you have your cost here. So it shows you how much you're paying for each rider that was in your event. Below, we have the licenses and memberships. So as you collect that information, you would enter that in here. We did pre-reg only for this event, so there's nothing that we sold on site. I'm going to put 10 one-days sold online through Bike Reg. Bike Reg collects that money, so this is a payment that you would remit to USA Cycling. It doesn't come directly from Bike Reg because we don't have, access or anything that allows us to collect that money directly from Bike Reg for the event. So keep that in mind when you're making your payment for the post event, because you should receive those fees directly from Bike Reg. We didn't sell any annual memberships at this point, but you would enter that in here. You will not, as a chief referee, you would not see this. This is an admin function, but you can see that that's there, so we can mark this as being received. And so below you see you've got your entire total of post-event fees that you owe. And you'll see that there's no late fee for this, and it's calculated the total correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click Save and Pay Later. Now you, as the chief referee, will see something different here for these buttons. It will not be the same thing. The organizer will see something different, that they can submit the payment. All right, so you see payment due, you see the balance, you have all this information here. It's the organizer. What I would see is I've got the overview here. I'm notified via email that I have an outstanding payment for the post event. And then I can go in here and click on view payment and make the payment, or I can review the information at any time from this post event tab. So you have multiple ways to take care of the payment. If you want to review it through the post event tab and then submit the payment, you can do that. You can also just click here on the dollar sign, and that will take you to make the payment for the post event. So what I want to do now is just make sure we're good on questions and look at the chat function. Well, so Heidi had the question, will the one-day license purchase be completed on Bike Reg? Heidi, yes, that is handled through Bike Reg. And you, as an organizer, and even chief referees can get access through the event organizer as an admin. You can request for that information and be able to review that to see who purchased a one-day and to make sure that everybody was good. So that is available there. Anthony had the question, in the past, races had a USAC flyer in their own event announcement. We have moved to a common event flyer announcement with Bike Reg, changes for which were only made with the approval of the local LA. Do CRs need to be concerned about changes made to categories or prize money after the event was permitted, or do any changes trigger a subsequent USAC review for compliance? Anthony, that's a good question. Yes, there is. Anytime you make a change, the permit goes back into a review status. Once that change is made, admins are notified, and then at that point, if the CR is assigned, they would be notified as well. The local association, once we fix the items with the LA zip codes, then that officials assigner or LA admin would be notified as well of the change. We'll review it. And one thing that I did show you in something you strongly encourage everybody to do, because this helps just overall with the flow of information with any changes or anything to do with your event. In this comments section, you can add a comment here, and so you can explain what the change is after you've made it, and that allows us to see, oh, he's making a sponsor change. I go in and look at the flyer. I can see that. I can also go in through the documents and be able to see that you've had multiple flyers and compare those, so that we make sure that we cover those. So yes, there are some changes there, and we want to keep everybody in the loop on those changes. Looks like, so from what I'm seeing, it looks like we are up to date on the, oh, Dirk had a question. Can multiple people work on an event permit? Dirk, if you add the additional contacts, then they will have the ability to work on this as well. So that gives them access to it. But usually we want one point of one contact for this to review. So, and let me, Chuck, you're unmuted now.
Great. I just want to address that question Tony brought up, I think, about the changes to a permit. Technology or not, I mean, someone can do something to change something. So I've been the unfortunate chief referee before to have been, well, the race director placed an online flyer on the USA Cycling website, which was Source of Truth. Somehow, and I certainly don't think it was intentional in this case, a flyer got put out to a few number of people by mistake that had a different start time. And I had 3 people come up to me after the race had started. You know, that's obviously, that happens whether we review it or not. What we're looking for is the ability to capture that original one and have a process in place to change it. If someone has done that either on the sly or mistakenly, certainly something we want to know about and have the ability to deal with after the fact. I think mostly that's unintentional. I think what we're all concerned about is either someone lowering prize money or combining categories when folks were told one thing and they show up and another thing's there. Absolutely is something we want to hear about. We have a system in place to control that. It is not foolproof. And that's one reason we have our chief referees out there looking at that kind of stuff. So I hope that helps. All right, that was it for me, Stuart. I think Stuart's.
Yeah, no, yeah. So it looks like we don't have any further questions. So I want to thank everybody for participating, and we'll go ahead and end the recording, and we'll get this added as a resource for all organizers. And again, if you have any questions or need any assistance, we're always here to help. The goal is to try to make a system that once you've learned it and been through it 1 or 2 times, that this will be far easier than it has been in the past for you to permit, or even now you can list your event. So we appreciate everybody being involved, and thank you for all you do for the sport. And we look forward to chatting with everybody here in the near future. So have a great weekend, and we'll talk soon.